Hello, everybody.
What's up?
It's Zack. How's everyone doing? Good evening. For those of you who don't know, my name is Matt Leckie, and I help out with the marketing and social media and all that kind of stuff here at Pulse. This is Zack Wilson.
Hello.
How you doing, Zack?
Yeah, good. Good to be here to live stream and answer questions and drum.
So this is a kind of an experiment. We're just trying some things out. So if you want to jump in and ask questions and all that kind of stuff, please join us in the chat. We're totally down. Zack got his pad here, so we'll be playing through some exercises and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we already have this. This is great. First things first. When did you start drumming? How did this whole thing start for you?
So I really only started. I kind of started a little bit in fifth grade. I kind of explored. Like I think it was a program called like the Lesson House, and my mom's like, you should go there and try it. And it was like I learned like a paradiddle. I was like, this is weird. and then in seventh grade I went to like Townsend, or my first junior high school, and I was like, I think I'll do band. It's like year long.
Yeah, totally.
It'll be better for me to get into, and then pretty much the rest is history. But because my dad was a musician,
cool.
he's actually a choir director,
nice.
like out in Moreno Valley. But he was like, yeah, like try band out, like that's what I do. And I'm like, I'll try the drumming. So, but then from there, pretty much as soon as I hit junior high, then I got into everything about Townsend and Chino Hills. And,
Cool.
So
nice. So it's so great about the Chino Hills thing is that they have, drumming and all that kind of indoor stuff in middle school, and that's pretty awesome. So, do you remember like the first show you maybe first saw or anything like that?
I think the first live show I saw was actually the Pulse preview show, and then like in 2012 for me. And then right after that was like the first show used to be at Chino Hills, where it was like RCC was there, Pulse was there, and that's when I got to see everything in a huge crowd, which was back then it was crazy. Then again, we just went through those last 2 weeks, so
yeah, no, totally. Cool. It's kind of mind blowing that like we have so much talent, and we're so fortunate to be here in SoCal to have all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a show that like inspired you, or that like that you early on got to you?
Well, I think once I saw those shows, I started kind of looking up like what is WGI, like what is drum corps, and then one of the early ones I still always love, Music City, like 2011, Music City Mystique. I love that show. They were really good, but like watching that show just was like, it was just so fun. I watched that over and over and over. Like I would come from school from junior high and like I just want to watch that show again. I want to watch The Pit, but a lot of like. That show inspired me because it was so cool. Like that was the first time I had seen like a bunch of people doing the same thing essentially, but
totally.
It was such an interesting vibe just to watch it. But so yeah, I think that was like the biggest show.
How did Zack get so buff?
Oh, how did I get so? I don't know. I don't think I am. I'm still working on that part of it.
No, totally.
Lots of drumming.
Yeah. Bragging. Right. So we get these questions all the time. And I think this is how did you get better? Like when you were even in like middle school and stuff, what were kind of some of the techniques you used when you were practicing?
That's a good question. For me, I'm sure even people in the chat heard like there's a book called Stick Control. It's like classic. Besides my instructors at Townsend, which are now instructors at Chino Hills, he kind of just told me like there's this book called Stick Control, and it's just a bunch of basic patterns. And the biggest thing when I practice, like I still have always worked on my technique. It's not that great. Like I'm still working it out. But the biggest thing for me was always like getting it to sound the best, like whatever sounds even. Yeah. That's what the book like Stick Control is. Everything. It's like all simple patterns, and you just play it. It's like super even. Get it to sound really good, and then. Once I installed that motto in myself, to like as long as it sounds great, I can work with that. Then you can play everything, make that sound great, work with then everything. It's like there's a good process, like so.
Through all the members every year at Pulse, it seems like one of the big things they always talk about is sound quality and like getting the drum to sound, with the best possible tone and sound to it. And it doesn't sound like that's easy. It doesn't. I'm first of all, I'm not a drummer by the way, so but I know that's important to the way that we sound and everything like that. So, do you have any exercises or something that you might recommend for tone quality and sound quality?
The most classic one just for sound quality. It's kind of hard. Stick Control, like Pulse, like Stick Control is a great one just because it just works on playing different patterns in the same, like it's the same meter, so you just get it to sound exactly the same. A big one is like just any sort of pyramid where you're just working on like say wrist turn, like anything with just straight wrist turn and working on this skill because, that's like the thing is the biggest thing to work on sound quality is to play. If you want to play one thing that sounds better, like say like a really hard rudiment, even still, it's like we'll break it down slow and like play that skill set so slow that it becomes like, oh, this is just stick control.
Right.
Because then you relate the first thing you learn to everything you play.
Totally.
So.
Stick control. A lot of stick control.
I know, yeah.
What is your favorite vocal sound to make?
My favorite vocal? I don't even. My favorite vocal sound?
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's a joke or.
Yeah. Well, that is Sebastian. Hey, Sebastian.
Why is your drum flat?
My drum actually, yeah. My drum's flat because it doesn't really tilt. Right here.
Just the sound. Just a little.
Here we go. It's on a 7-degree tilt now, just for everyone watching.
Perfect. Everyone at home, right? Yeah. Okay, look, here's a good one. Okay, you're planning to audition for Pulse Percussion in the next couple of years. Do you have any tips?
I mean, besides, I would say, like, check out the packet. Like, try to buy the packet as soon as it comes out. Even, you could ask people for the packet or just watch the live videos, but that's a good audition tip for anywhere you go. Like, just check out the packet, watch videos, watch how they drum, rather than just like what they're playing. But
I can also, going to the clinics is super helpful. You actually get the packet when you go to the clinics, so that's like a really good way. We just announced, and it's actually, you can register now for the clinic on March 1st. So feel free to download it, and once you register and everything, and a bunch of great instruction. You'll have the Pulse instructors and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the instructors will be there, we'll all be there, and we'll get to drum together. And then we even like talk about the exercises like stick control. We even talk about all that stuff together. So
hello from Oklahoma. What's up? How you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did the Chino Hills thing. After the Chino Hills thing, first of all, tell us where you've performed with, what groups you performed with. Let's start with that.
So after Chino Hills, I went to Blue Stars in 2017, and then I went to Pulse, which is my first year. I've been here ever since 2018. And then after Blue Stars for the summer, I went to Blue Coats, and now I've been there since then, which is 2018 as well. So Blue Coats is it's a really visible group. I love every show that they do and everything like that. Why did you decide to do Blue Coats as opposed to other drum corps? That was a question I had to ask myself for a while because I think after doing Blue Stars, like I did Blue Stars, definitely Johnny and were a big influence. That was the year they left. But even still, like, Eric Shriver was there, Connor Yasuda was there, like a lot of...
Bunch of Pulse people.
Yeah, Pulse people, and like Adam Norris from Rhythm X, who I loved him. And there was just so much positive influence there and instruction. That's really why I went there. So making the choice, I knew I wanted to go... like, for me, it was honestly either Blue Coats or SCV. Like, I really loved... I loved everything about both the places, both similar reasons and a lot of different reasons, but... The biggest thing about Coast was, like, they're really... Blue Coast 2012, I watched, like, the finals on videos forever, and I just loved everything about... I loved, like, that year, I still... Even now, like, I'll march now, and I go back, like, during the summer, it's like, man, I just want to... Can we just sound like Blue Coats 2012? Like, but I love the Blue Coats stuff. I feel like they always try to... Show-wise, they always kind of surprise people. Like, even last year, the Blue Coats show about... the Blue Coats, but like had the Beatles music. A lot of people, it's like, wow, that was an interesting choice. Like it could have gone south so fast, just because it's everyone knows what it is. So everyone in the world really has an opinion. But I think we did a good job, and a lot of people agreed. So it's just stuff like that. They kind of overcome. They introduce new ideas, and they overcome any negative opinions. I think so. And I loved that about it.
We had a question in the chat. What's your favorite show? What has been your favorite show to perform after Chino Hills, Pulse, Blue Coats, Blue Star? I mean, all these groups.
Man, that's tough. Well, I can't even pick one from for WGI. I guess my favorite show to perform. Ooh, God, there's been. Well, if I had to choose from like my independent years, I'd say my favorite show to perform for Pulse was easily. I mean, if I don't include this year, I would say it was easily last year, just because it was just a high intensity show. Like the tempos never dipped below, like the slowest tempo was like 186, and we were there for like just a second. So that show was a lot of fun. Like the solo was a lot of fun to do as well. But like the whole, I know that's not the only.
I know.
It was but it was pretty awesome. But. DCI, this last year was a lot of fun. The most fun to perform, just as a performer though, was even including including Pulse, it was still 2018 for Bluecoats. It was like that show. Like that show was just such a blast. Like to do with. It was bigger than just like me being a battery member doing my part. It was like I was with the whole core, and I was like with color guard. We had like visuals with color guard, and it was like just yelling at each other, performing together. Like it was awesome. So
so you have some people who want to say, want you to say hi to them.
well, hello. Oh, is that Brennan from? Oh, is that my Townsend guys? My Townsend kids?
They're asking you what's your favorite Townsend show?
My favorite Townsend show. Well, man, I was only in. My favorite Townsend show is their 2017 show, The Do-Over Button, which
There you go.
that's probably one of the. That's such an impressive because with middle school it's really hard. Like you only really get most middle schools only get 2 years, so to have a middle school that can play like really clean and like nail some stuff that's kind of rare sometimes. And 2017, like that snare line. I mean, this year's a contender, so we'll see what happens. They got a show this weekend as their first show. So.
Oh, nice! It'll be exciting to watch. I've been teaching drum corps since 2004, so I've seen a lot of drum corps. And I got to tell you, last year, both this year and last year's Blue Coat shows were some of the most fun, enjoyable like viewing experience ever. So I'm glad to hear that they were fun to perform too, because like they're a blast to watch. You guys look like you're having fun, and the performances are on another level to say the least.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. They were so much fun.
So many. This guy's question gets asked a lot. What? This was asking for drum corps, but let's make it like specific to Pulse. What do you think the staff is looking for when they're auditioning somebody for Pulse?
It's really they're definitely they're just looking to see how you drum. That's like the biggest thing. I think the biggest misconception between like everywhere, like Pulse has like people see Pulse and they see a lot of style. We have the tilt. People think there's a whole different philosophy. It's not that different. Like at the end of the day, you should show up and you should just try to like we just look for basic mechanics, like all the basic mechanics, like wrist turn, sound quality, a decent contrast between heights, like all those things that everyone could look for. Yeah. But it's really just like comfortability in drumming in your own way. Now, like obviously, like I only say that because when you show up to the audition, a lot of the times like someone will say like, "Hey, check this out." Like you're trying to do like. Say for flex, sometimes we have a float and we relax. Like if I go up, I relax the wrist. I'm not trying to do this. I'm just relaxing the wrist. And a lot of people will try to kind of do it their own way. Like they'll try to make it happen. You really like if you're used to just doing this and not floating, you should go there and just do that. Because the staff member will say like, "Hey, try watching the center. Try this out," and then you'll be there to assess. But other than that's why I'm mostly going into an audition. I think the staff is just looking for you to drum the most comfortable you can. Yeah. And then a part of that, it's like you learn as you go. Obviously, like if you're more experienced, like a lot of people go to Pulse and they march, like say this one guy Chase this year, Chase Parks, like he marched Cavaliers, Jackson and Cameron marched Mandarins, like there's a different style. But when they came in, like they're just good enough where they can now watch, like they kind of know what they're looking for. But
it's kind of crazy the different styles that we have had in the group. I mean, you can even look at it now and how many different drum corps are represented in our group.
There's a lot. I mean, I go to Blue Coats as a center snare. Eli center quad goes to Blue Devils.
Trent March Vanguard.
Vanguard,
I mean the front of
like there's people. It's like crazy. Like the top 5. Like some of our section leaders are from like all the top 5 corps, which is crazy. Which is awesome. Like that's such a cool environment.
Oh yeah.
It's also so helpful. It's like man, like because sometimes if you go to the same place, like everyone has the same ideals, but really if you go to Pulse, it's like there's a lot of information going around. Like especially this year, it's like we all want to accomplish one thing, and everyone kind of has a different idea of doing it. And for me, that's more fun. People say like that seems like kind of a little bit of a mess, but no, it's really fun because then you learn more.
It also makes me, that the staff is just as diverse as the membership is. The staff teaches a bunch of different drum corps, and all of them are. I think the staff teaches all top 12 drum corps. So it's really cool and diverse that way.
Awesome.
There's a question from social media, and John Mapes asks, "Who is your favorite instructor?"
Oh no, my favorite instructor is my favorite instructor. I mean, well, there's instructors, there's designers, there's different. I mean. I would have to say, like, favorite instructor, I mean, definitely, I know,
mostly just a joke, but if you
I'm all about the Chino Hills. Yeah. I know where I came from, and the Chino Hills place, like, Jeremy and John pretty much have always been, they're just the best, like,
Jeremy, yes, the shout out for Jeremy in the chat.
I know, really, yeah, no, Jeremy, I know. Someone even said, I think we were talking.
Most underrated instructor maybe of all time. Quietly, just one of the best instructors I've ever seen is Jeremy. So
Probably. I mean, even all the places I've been, like even at Coates, it's like you compare. I mean, it's like Connor Yasuda teaches Pulse too,
yeah,
and
Connor.
and teaches Blue Coats, but now it's like, well, who taught him? Jeremy Riley, and like John wrote the show, so it's like all those kinds of things.
That's a good the one in blue, Saxo. That's a really good question. Can you see that one?
Oh yeah, how could someone balance WGI in high school practice and performance with PCI auditions and camps while still keeping a job to pay for it all?
Great question.
No, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I definitely have I have a lot of support from my parents. Like even this year, I've definitely paid all for Pulse, but like to start off the payments, like paying the early fee, like my parents helped me out, so we could split it and I could make it up. But I mean, balancing it with high school, that's kind of the harder part, is really committing to the fundraisers. And honestly, the biggest thing, and it's what I told the kids that I teach and the students I teach, and what I was told is like most of your parents, like when they see a passion in their children, like as long as you discuss with the parents, like I can work out, like I will help and I will go fundraise. It's like, that's kind of like you meet in the middle, you both work on it together. That's kind of what I did with my mom, like, because drumline isn't cheap. Like at the end of the day, like when you do it, it's not the cheapest thing in the world for sure. But it's definitely, if you have the fundraisers and you explain to your parents how much you really want to do it, then you can kind of come to a middle ground. And with drum corps now, I know for a lot of them, in Pulse, like there's definitely ways like you can, as like if you go to a drum corps and they really want you, but it's like I can't fully afford it yet, then I'm sure the organization will have a way to help, like guide you through.
We're trying to, I help on the admin side, so we're trying to offer more fundraisers every year. But I will say, like when I marched devs, it was $900 to march, so it's like a third of the price it costs nowadays.
I know.
And you, to your point, like you can't do this alone. And whether it's a job or whether it's your parents, like you don't have to, there are many great ways to do it. And unfortunately, it's not cheap. I wish we could somehow if you know any billionaires that just want to give us like $1 billion, it would totally be a down. But no, I think that's a really good point. I mean, like, because it's super challenging to balance all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was the first year did you do drum corps after high school, or were you in high school at the same time?
I did drum corps after high school.
Okay, because that seems like it'd be a tough balance well.
I know there's people. I think I tried to march Blue Stars 2016, but like I had to do, like because of band, I was pretty stacked for classes, so I had to do like summer school for languages and stuff like that. So it definitely gets tough. But I totally agree. Like it's not a one person thing. It's too difficult to pay for it all by yourself. But
let's see, what are some exercises you can practice to get into the Chino Hills High School drum lines? So the Townsend kids Townsend students are definitely in the chat. Right now. That's awesome.
Yes, they're definitely in the chat. I mean, the packet, guys. The packet that has been sent out. But yeah, I mean, stick control. That's not even a joke. I mean, really, it's funny. Like every day I go to Townsend, we pretty much every single day we play Pyramid. And then we play stick control, and that's in the Chino Hills packet. It was in the Blue Stars packet when I was there. It's in the Pulse packet. Even at Coates, like we were working on. So It's really, I mean, not just Chino Hills, but pretty much anywhere. It's like if you understand your basics. Now, other places like Blue Coats auditions are a little tough because the packet in that case is really hard. Like the packet's like some of the hardest exercises I've ever played. Even compared to some of the book I've played, it's really hard.
Right.
And like Blue Devils are really hard. But then there's places like Vanguard, their packet it's a lot of like simple exercises, or there's no packet and you just kind of play, you learn it there. So that's like another thing, is being able to sight read is like really helpful. Just like they like to see how people kind of like survive in the deep end sort of a thing. Like I know for everywhere I've pretty much gone, like you always learn like music or a lick or something, and you end up playing it there. I know for a fact Blue Devils do that. Like you go there and they teach you a lick over the weekend, and then you try to play it in front of everyone. So I would just say like learning licks is really helpful too.
Oh, sure.
Like assuming you have a lot of your fundamentals down, depending on your age and your skill level, but learn like licks that are easy, learn solos that are a little more complicated, but being able to achieve like, say like the Blue Coat solo from this last year, like if you can play that really like down tempo, it's still just as impressive, and you're just working on, you're learning more, your brain is like working faster with your hands, so stuff like that is great for auditions.
Good tips. There's getting a bunch of questions in chat. Let's go. Let's see. This one's come up a couple times. If you weren't with Pulse, what other independent group would you go to, or what other independent group was one of the ones that maybe appealed to you when you were looking after high school?
That's a good question. I mean, the year I graduated, I think the year I graduated was when Broken City had that 2017 solo.
Oh, cool.
And that was awesome. Because I remember I saw it in like...
It was so good early on, too. Like, that was good the whole damn season.
I know. It was, they had it, it was SCBA Finals, and they played it. There was like Damian Masterson had a video, and it was crystal clear. Like, oh, like they nailed it. And then but even still, I think for me, like a group, I loved RCC. I always pretty much love RCC. I love the stuff they do. MCM for me, I loved their shows a lot.
They're incredible.
And
there's big production. Oh man, they do so many cool things.
Yeah, I think honestly for me, like, I think going to RCC would be cool. Like I think like even this year, like we had our first show and like I saw their book even, but now it was cool. It was awesome. Like I just love their production. It always feels fresh, even if it's like whether you like it or don't like it, it definitely feels fresh. So
this question came up before, and I think this is a tough one. But what's the best way to approach marching in a world-class drum corps with no prior experience?
Well, let's see.
Confirm Zack is going to RCC next year. What? Get out of here!
Yeah,
get out of here, chat.
I feel like that's is that Christian? I'm not sure. I know, but I think the best. I mean, if you didn't, well, I had experience of Chino Hills, which that gets me very far, But even going to Blue Stars was crazy. It was just so different. I mean,
I know on the brass side of things, which and I think this can kind of carry over to some drumline stuff. Is that look for a local clinic somewhere. BOA, WGI, DCI, they're all doing clinics around the country right now. Like just go to one and like take notes, record, take in as much information as you possibly can at some of those clinics because there's so much good info out there. And I would say also that YouTube can be invaluable. Break down what you see on YouTube. That's one of the great things we have is we can play things back and stuff nowadays. So it's like, break it down measure by measure. Break it down left foot by right foot. How are they doing what they're doing? And like analyze it and then try to do it yourself. And then record yourself or do it in a mirror, those kind of things. Those are the little things that help as well.
Yeah.
Pulse Clinic March. There we go. Yeah, see, come on, Dad.
Yeah.
I promise you, this is not just a shill for our clinic.
I know,
because they're really, like, it's so cool getting to work with, like, our staff if you've never experienced anything like it. And it'll give you a good experience for something like that. So, oh, come on, the dancer. What's your favorite, of the Pulse warm-ups, what's kind of like your favorite exercise?
Well, I think my favorite exercise is to play pretty much. Well, this year it's funny. We have a new rolls exercise that it was kind of like written by like the members and the section leaders. But I love that exercise just because it's really good on like interp and it really works on all the important things I see, like all the important things to rolls. I think, but I like the rolls exercise. I love like the new paradiddles because it's like. It reminds me. I think some
new paradiddle exercise. Yeah, right in time.
Yeah, I love the paradiddle exercise too.
Play your favorite exercise. Well, we do have a pad and sticks here.
Yeah.
So
I can't.
What's your favorite?
My favorite. Let's see. I'll play the new rolls one, and then I'll talk about it. I guess because it definitely works on the diddle stuff. Play the new rolls one. I think I added in some buzzes. There was supposed to be diddles for sure.
My dog's in here too, by the way, and he's wondering what is going on, but he's doing good.
He was sleeping. He's like, "Can you stop?"
Yeah, right. What's going on? Please.
I think one part in there, There's one part it goes. It's called. I think it's an old school thing called Bert and Ernie's. I know at Blue Coats we call it so many different things, but it's like the whole part that goes. I love that part. Because like when we played it at Blue Coats, I loved it, but it really works on like a big philosophy, especially with Pulse, like Glenn preached this a bunch when he was here, and we still do, is like when you're trying to play a roll, like there's always like you talk about the fulcrum and the different ways you use the stick and like finger manipulation. But playing all this stuff, like it's so fast that if you try to wrist it out, it's kind of choppy versus like if I kind of use some of my finger for this part to help me, it keeps a consistent rebound going. And then when I get to the actual rolls, I'm using all of my fingers to help me not squeeze so I get an open sound. It's like for that first drag. But I've been pretty much going through that. It's a lot easier to play when I use kind of my fingers. So, if you like, plus there's a lot of stuff in there, even this part. No, it works on. I know I'm like click-clacking my sticks all over the place, but
probably not the most comfortable setup.
I know, yeah. It's for sure. It's not tilted enough, I guess, yeah. But yeah, but I love rolls. I just love that one because it really works on. It's like my best thing for rolls is like using all the assets you have without just like, because if you over squeeze, the stick is just so brittle versus like if I use my fingers, like it can resonate more and I can really feel all the notes going on. But
is there something that you do like daily, or maybe is there something that you did daily to develop some of your skills? Like what are some of the things like you find yourself going back to that?
I mean, there's like an old, one thing, this isn't even what I do all the time, but it's like an old like Eric Shriver click track thing where it almost takes like skill sets like this, like doing tap drags. Where you do that, and then you basically like you play it for 16 counts, or you play 4 bars of it, and then you play it like last bar, you go a little faster, and even still in that click track I would go up a little slower, but there is definitely merit in playing things slow. I always love like whenever I learn new music, I always take it like really slow. Like if anyone's familiar with there's like a Blue Coats exercise called like Up Each of Rolls. It starts like that kind of thing. When I first learned it, there were so many weird rhythms. Because Roger Carter wrote it, which is it's like my favorite thing, and we don't really play it because it's too hard. But when I learned that, I took it so like just. But like just to get the whole. Like all the tap space and stuff. But
The chat's being brutal about the tenor solo. They want you to play apparently a tenor solo from this year. I don't know what they're. Yeah.
The 2012. Yeah, there's a video. Okay, funny video. This will be the new funny. So there's a funny video out there. It's basically the Blue Devils. I went to a system boot camp in 2012.
Okay.
Because that was when I was like I just finished my 7th grade year. So, by the way, 7th grade year of drumline, I was in the cymbals for marching band, and then I got asked, they're like, we kind of need someone in like the indoor drumline, and I wasn't going to do it like at first, but they're like, we need someone like, they made it sound really special. I was like, okay. And then I was on rack basically for like my 7th grade year, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, and on the rack, I was like behind, like sitting down, like watching the battery, like learning all the parts and stuff. So I went to the system boot camp, and there's a video you can find, and it's me with like my old like neon green tennis shoes, and like it looks so funny. But it's like they had their little like they play like a little jam, like it's like you play like a bar of this, and then there's like a solo, and I played my solo and. I did not play it. I like broke. It's just like a little kid just like breaking. The funny thing is the comments. I'm sure if someone looks it up, the comments are like the first one is like, God, that guy like the second tenor solo was like really that sucked. I'm like Jesus Christ. Like, and then another comment is like, you know that guy like because it was like when I got posted, someone's like, God, that solo was so bad. I'm like a little kid like, oh damn. And then. Now you look back and people comment like, "That's the guy who went to Chino Hills." Like that guy's like in the Blue Coats now, which is so funny.
No, it's stuck with you the rest of your life.
I know that's such a funny video though. It was like just me like, I got it. I did not have it.
So
back then.
just to let everyone know in the chat, we're a little bit aggressive on the auto mod. So if you can post a link, if you can find it, I'll allow it. Just let you know, we don't have any mod yet or anything like that, so it might be a little aggressive on bumping your links and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So apologies for that. We'll lighten up a little bit as we get some people who can moderate and stuff like that. So let's play in symbols. Jeez.
Henry, yeah. Which dead is the most important? The second one. The second. That's a legitimate answer too. Second dead is the most important because if you have one dead, then there's no tempo. But if you have two, you can feel out when it's gonna go.
I don't know the best way to ask this question, but it's come up a couple times and about diddles. And you know, I don't know what the question is. Maybe what's a good approach? What's the best way to learn? Or
I mean, diddles are. It's funny. Jeremy says this all the time, and it's true. Because he even tells me, because even I'm like trying to like, what's the best way to? I never know. Yes, Steve Boosty. Yeah. But like even like the best way to play diddles, like for me, I really like kind of taught myself, like Jamal Richardson, who he went to me all through high school. We played snare together, well, for most of high school, and then he went to Pulse last year. He's in Texas now for doing School of Music, which is awesome. But like we both together, like we kind of learned the same way, but we just learned, like we just kind of taught ourselves. Like even Jeremy's like, I never taught you guys like, this is how you play diddles. This is the way. Like there's a lot of helpful ways. Like for instance, I guess for me now, like if I was doing my left hand diddles, I used to basically like if you take off these two fingers and you just hold it through here and your thumb, because it teaches you like the base thing is like left hand essentially is more of a clamp, and like you then connect it with the rest of the fingers. Like this hand, there are so many different ways to feel rolls. You can use this finger, this one, all of them. Left hand, you kind of just got the thumb. Like you have to, you could take off all the fingers and I can still go, like play something. But if I got rid of the thumb, I would have this weird, awkward grip that doesn't really work. So it's really like, I just take off these two fingers, hold it with my thumb, and you can work on buzzes through pressing your thumb and diddles. Like I even go home, like sometimes I'm like, God, because I don't always get a chance to warm up or something. I'm trying to play a good roll, like maybe right now for the stream. But it's like stuff like this, like, oh, I can't play rolls, so I'll just like take off these fingers. Just make sure I'm feeling it from the right place, and then I'll put them on. Because essentially when I add on these fingers, I'm just adding them visually and physically. I'm adding them onto the stick. I'm not necessarily like pressing down. So this is my way of like really getting out rolls, because you can do it whatever tempo. And then the right hand, there's so many ways. I mean, you could do this if you're struggling to use wrist for your rolls, and like if you're just kind of doing this or whatever, you can just take off really your fulcrum and you can connect it to the back, which teaches me to like rebound and use my wrists for it. You could also just take off these back two, so you can actually use like these two for a strong fulcrum, because then it's really easy. You might get some bad heights like this. Like that might happen, but at least you're rebounding. So then when you add it back on, you close this gap, and then you know what to feel for rolls. But there's a bunch of different ways. Also, one that I kind of figured out the other day for like match grip, if you're trying to, because like the fulcrum's here, so you could do this to feel out, take off these two fingers, which is great. But if you want to get a little more articulation like this stuff, like if you want to play paradiddle, not like some people might get this like a weak low, and if you want to make sure articulating like that, you can basically I kind of just take off. I basically shift my fulcrum, and then I use all these to dig in. Once again, heights are not going to be the best doing this, but it teaches you how to articulate with your fingers and not just and use your wrist. So when I put it back on, I basically can get a much better feel for diddles. But that's the dog's on the move now.
Okay, we got a couple requests.
I know,
Throw them in there.
we have
there
to
you
show.
go. Here's the dog, and he's appreciating the articulation. So, you want to wave? Okay.
He's loving it.
See you later. Okay, I'm gonna let him out real quick. Read some chat if you will.
Yeah. Can I play bass? If you're asking about the bass guitar, then no. But bass drum, I can try to split stuff. Do I like picking up my feet? Oh yes, you know. There's actually a funny thing I do with Townsend too. Is like a lot of people for marking time do it differently. You got to make sure Daniel Rakoder, he marched Blue Coats in 2012 on tenors, and he taught there until this last year. But he was like, feet timing is just like, it's basically like this. Like if you just do a lot of like, because mostly for wind instruments they do not talk about the mark time, but for percussion, since it's such an articulate sound with the met. Like if the met's playing, you want to make sure you're always trying to double stop it with the met. For a wind instrument, it's a little more smooth of a sound. It's not as articulate. But for marking time, like we don't do this because that's just kind of weird. Like no one really does that. But even like doing this is like you get such a different tempo. Like it's them hitting all this. It's not the sensory, like the senses in your feet are not sending it the same way if you do this. So you really want to make sure you're picking up your feet and flat foot. Even me, I kind of like sometimes take my heel off and I'll do like this a little bit because I'm like marching. It's like a bad habit, but.
I got a question for you. Is it tough or is it a challenge to go in between different styles when you go to DCI, WGI, when you go back and forth between the groups?
It is. It's a little tough at first. Like people, I will say though, and I'm sure there's a huge question for everyone, but like a big style for me easily is like I do the tilt and then I do the flat. And I know it's like a huge, people think it's really like a huge difference. It is definitely a difference. Like the biggest difference for me is like when I go to a flat drum, my drum ends up being a little bit higher. And like even right now, like if I were to tilt this a lot more, like say like Pulse even doesn't do that big of a tilt, but this is say tilted, and I'm not the best type, but this is tilted. My right arm sits a little more comfortably, and it's going to be at an angle. And like that's not a huge difference. Like I adjust it to feel comfy. It's great. Now for the summer, for me when I first like the biggest thing for me is like the only difference here besides the fact that it's flat is a little over flat, but the biggest difference is that my right arm being here is now just a little up here. Because I pretty much, over the summer, when I go to flat drum, my drum ends up being a little bit higher just to support my left hand so I'm not like hurting my shoulder. Because then you'll even see like there's a lot of people, you can tell a lot of people who go from tilt to flat, you'll see them in a lot kind of like this. Like they'll just be kind of drumming like super high and then super, even a lot of people who just drum on flat drum, it's just a bad habit. So I usually adjust it to my left hand and my right hand just ends up being a little bit higher. But that's like the biggest adjustment for me. Sometimes I know there's people, for me, blue coats, I mean, most people have a straight leg technique. I know there's like bent leg technique, which I've never learned bent leg technique, but it's, for drums, it's kind of the same, honestly, like bent leg. There's different like feet manipulations I know you do, but as far as like actual marching, I mean, even straight leg sometimes is like, it's a relaxed straight leg. It's like, it's going to bend a little bit because you can't literally have a straight leg and hit the ground. Like that's going to be awful for your legs. But so it's a lot of little adjustments, but tilts to flat is the biggest thing, I think.
A lot of the Townsend folks looks like they're taking off because they got a homework or sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
They want you to say goodbye.
Yeah, you have to get ready we got to do show setup tomorrow for this weekend, so we have to, but yeah. Bye, guys.
Tell us a little bit. We haven't given out too much public information about the show this year. But tell us what's the title of the show, and if you can, tell us maybe a little bit about it.
Well, the show is called "With All That Spinning Around" for this year, and the premise, it's a pretty simple idea. It's nothing like I can explain. I'll explain it in a very simple way. Like the show is like all the spinning around, and a lot of the ideas like we all get caught up in. You get caught up in these cycles, essentially, like, and this can stem from like a simple thing like I go to school, like say like I go to school every day, which I do, like I go to school every day, I drive home, I work out, I eat, I go teach, and then I teach there, I come home, I do my homework, and then I go to bed. Like it's like something like that. It's just something where it's like eventually, like during, like it goes for so long, and say I finish my semester for one. Like this is like super specific on this, but it's like you finish your semester, you start a new cycle, indoor season starts, you work out at a different time, like whatever it is, like you realize like, man, I was really doing this every day. And it's when you realize that you're in your cycle that you really break your cycle, you get out of it. But only to find, naturally you just get into a new cycle. And that's like a very simple way of explaining the show. Like, and hopefully as everyone watches the show and sees, like you'll notice like there's a lot of similar things going on with the Vision Ensemble. Like we kind of do a lot of similar vision in the beginning because the singer's like going through his own cycle. Singer, if you haven't seen the show, there's a singer.
We just posted about it yesterday. So
Okay,
there
good,
is
good.
a singer.
Yeah, in case everyone didn't know, but
one of the things too cool is that we have talked about is that John and Ian, it's all original music from which is like, I think one of the coolest. It almost it seems very personal to the guys, which I think is really cool. I mean, we have a design team, and it's cool that the guys who wrote the music, it's like all original stuff. I really dig it.
Yeah, it's the show reveal was awesome because like it was funny because there wasn't many. Usually when I get a show reveal from John and Ian, it's like there's a lot of like background stuff that they could show because it's inspired by so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
So in some years, in some cases, there's so many different things it's inspired by.
Right.
Just because they usually show like the whole process.
Yeah.
But this year it was just a little bit shorter because there wasn't as much to see on the projector because it was all kind of live. Like John was like, well, like this is the song. And he showed us a song. He even played it for us, and he was like, "Here are the lyrics." And it's like, "Well, this is a huge inspiration for the show." Because then at that point, it gives them the creative freedom to write it themselves, which is why. That's also why I love this show. Has probably some of my favorite music for Pulse, like without a doubt. Even in not just the years I've marched, like even for multiple years, like the music we're playing and the beats we're playing, I love just because, like, I mean, even me, like I've been doing everything I've been doing with John for so long, like. I see the tendencies that he has and he writes. Everyone has them. Like
they have a style. It's his style. You know, it's his
style.
personal thing for him. Yeah, he has a
like
style.
certain people love like to write this one thing, or they like a phrase builds a certain way, and it's like, oh, like I feel like, you know, like everyone has their little style that they do. Like there's no one that doesn't, because if you didn't, it'd be kind of weird. Like a lot of people are successful because of their style, like everyone you see at the top. But because of that, this year it's like I'm seeing a little bit. It's awesome. I'm seeing like a little bit of a different direction for some of the phrasing and like some of the solos. Some of the solos are cool too, for sure. But just like all the music, like I love is awesome. Like I love the way it works with the front ensemble. Like everyone gets their moments. So
and not to tease it too much, but so I've only been around Pulse in 2012, but I have not heard a show like this from us before, which I think is just it says a lot that you can still be unique after all of these years that you know. These guys have written the music for Pulse, so it's really cool.
It's awesome. That's like my favorite part is when I watch it. When I got to see it for the first time, like I think you had taken a good video for the preview show, and we all watched it.
Nobody will ever see. But,
I know, that's for we gotta study the show to get better.
Game film.
Yeah, but we when I first watched that, like it was just it was crazy because it just didn't feel like I was really watching like
that's cool.
A Pulse show at first. Like even in the first like 2 minutes, it was like this just seems so fresh. Like it's so clearly Pulse. Not in a way like, oh, like they're doing this thing in a stylistic way. It's like, no, like this is like you can tell that it's Pulse because of how they're playing it and what they're playing sometimes, but it's like, no, this just feels so fresh. Like the show like just has such a fresh flow to it. It doesn't seem like it's just a little different. So
this question has come up quite a bit. What sticks is Pulse using?
What sticks? We are using the John Mabe sticks, which is one of my pretty much like one of my favorite Vic First sticks. I haven't tried a bunch. I've tried a good amount now, but John Mapes, really, I love when you get a good pair. They are the best. They feel so good. We
have a great partnership and have had for a long time with Vic Firth, and so we've been using Vic Firth sticks since John and Ian actually got the Pulse back in 09, 08, somewhere around there. And they're great. And if you're all interested, if you see our merch booth out at any of the shows, if you're local in Southern California, we'll always have them available. Lone Star also has them at their booth as well. So you can come play with them, give them a try, and they're great sticks.
Yeah.
Who is John Mapes? Just some dude.
Yeah,
He's our favorite instructor. Oh, here we go. What's your philosophy with Pulses, Chino Hills, Molar? I don't know what that is. So
Molar, yeah. Well, Molar is essentially like, well, here's the philosophy. So as far as Pulse and Chino Hills is like, we definitely like to stay, especially coming from Chino Hills, like the easiest thing is when you're building like a single pattern, like if I'm playing anything like single accents, like at a certain tempo, they're playing that like usually like a lot of people get to Molar, which I know like old school Molar, I'm not sure how old school is, but like people used to define it with more of like manipulation of the arm, like elbow usage, like if I do this, like people used to do that. Like it's essentially so you get so fast you're not chopping out your wrist and losing rebounds. So I think the way to define it and like what Molar really is just Glenn told me this and it was funny because it's just true. That's the way I've always seen it. Is like you really want to stick onto the wrist. Like that's why Chino Hills does an exercise now. It sticks with like all this. It's like this accent, and then it goes into nine-lets, which forces you because it's faster, like going like instead of. Because it's faster, it kind of forces you to keep on your wrist. But all the molar is basically just simple manipulation of the arm upwards to support the already working wrist turn. That's pretty much all molar is, and that's my philosophy for sure. I think that's pretty much Chino Hills and Pulse's philosophy. Like a lot of like certain groups definitely like to involve. Like I know like there's groups like I know Blue Knights are definitely heavy on like they involve like a lot more elbow motion. And I know, like, I'm talking to people from there, and it's like, it makes sense, too. Like, for me, it's like a flexibility thing. Like, I'm not as flexible with my wrist, so for me to use my elbow is easier for me. Like, because, like, some people can get to here without even, like, I have to. If I'm at set and I try to turn, this is, like, as far as I can go without using my elbow. Like, some people, like, they can get to here. So elbow is just kind of to signify, like, a loose tap sound. Because I can do this, and my taps are going to be more flowy. Because some people are more concerned about evenness of tap sound rather than like the accents. But for me, if you want that good amount of contrast with still being comfortable, is when you kind of use like just a little bit of arm versus like if I'm doing this, like I just use just a little bit to help me on the way. Like going something like this. I'm still using my wrist. It's just basically helping me go up a little bit. So when I come down, it gives me like molar basically it supports the accent sound speaking out with still just doing like this. Because if I was to do this, it'd be strenuous on my taps. The arm kind of helps my wrist relax. It makes getting back down a little easier because you stop at that tap height.
I've seen that one a couple times. Is it bad to practice on a pillow?
No, I would say it's funny. Brian Anderson, if you don't know, he was even talking the other day, like he first learned like drumming and everything on a pillow. I don't think depends on what you're working on. Like at a certain point, it's like I don't really practice on a pillow for like people practice on a pillow because to get like strict wrist chops, which I would say it's not a terrible idea. Like a lot of people do it. It's not a bad idea. But even Ryan admitted, and like I was thinking about it, like I would used to drum on like I would drum on say like I don't think this couch. But even like a couch like this, honestly, like this has less rebound, but it still has enough. Or like if I'm doing a diddle, some people do diddles like we talked about from the fulcrum. It's like that's great on a drum, but how do you really understand like if you're doing just rolls, like you can play whatever. But if you have to do like an uppy triple roll, like if you're doing like this, like, and you want to hit like the upbeat accents in the middle, how do you really control that? Is you kind of you can play on here, because if you do this on here, it's going to work well. On a couch, it's going to be a little inconsistent sometimes, so I kind of play on a surface like this, where I can articulate how much I need to. So, I don't think it's bad to practice on a pillow at all. I think it's better to practice on, say, a couch with a little less rebound, so you can really dig in and get the articulation you want using realistic like resources like your fingers or just your wrist and fingers. So
what does the suede max head feel like?
The suede definitely feels a little bit softer than a black max. Like the black max is a little intense. It's not a like Evans heads. Like I know a lot of people use like the Evans hybrids. Those are definitely like way more. They're way, I would say, sharper. Like even the attack power is like a little. It's way more intense. A black max is definitely like. So going to a suede, like I think a black max is a little softer than even the Evans heads if you use that, but it's still like there's definitely a lot of attack power. Using the suede it's a lot softer at first, but it allows like you can tune the suede, like a lot higher, so that way like you get like you can tune the suede a lot higher to get it to that like you get a really good sound. Like you can tune it up to the black max and make it just as high, but it won't feel as like snappy, I guess, when you try to play it. So that's kind of like I think that's a big thing about the suede, and I think they don't last. They're meant to last like a little longer, but if you're trying to like for independent groups who get it to just be a lot higher, like Pulse does it, Cavalier's uses it a little bit, I think as well. Chino Hills is another one. Like to do that, like you have to tune it a lot higher, which is not a bad thing. It makes it I think a little easier on your hands sometimes. But
How do you get faster playing flam drags and flam fives?
Flam drags and flam fives. I mean, okay, when I first learned how to play a flam drag, I could play, it was like Shinohos are like, okay, we had spree, like classic spree, it was like this, flam drags, which I could do kind of as a freshman, and cheeses, but I could not play like a flam five. I did not understand it. So literally what I did was my instructor told me, Jeremy, he told me basically like, I went home and I just did super slow, like this tempo, almost basically going. Like one note at a time, and then even. And then you do the left, same thing. And you take it up, and then after you break it down, you just go super slow. But even that could be. Because the thing about rudiments, like say like a book report, or like an essay, or a flam five, like anything is like, it's all just like, you think about like, oh, right hand's doing this, like a flam five is doing, a book report is doing. And it's like, how do you break down that one rhythm that's doing so many things? Like, well, you just have to play it slow. Because rudiments are really about your hands, like, understanding it. It's not about thinking through with the brain. Like, as soon as you try to think through this with the brain, there's so many things that you have to manipulate at one time. Where if you take it slow, like, you have to learn rudiments, taking them slow and building it up. Because then you can just play it. Like, I can just play flam fives now. Because I can. And then you take up the tempo, and you can take it any tempo, like a 5-lit feel, a triplet feel, a different meter. It doesn't necessarily matter because I can understand the rudiment. And then you fit it into the feel. So that's how I did it.
I know we went through that a little quick. I see in the chat that like, what are all these things you're mentioning? This will be posted to YouTube afterwards, so you can go back and kind of break it down a little bit to understand what some of that stuff was.
Yeah, the essay, I know, that was like a fun, Manny De Leon taught me it. It's just like so it's a right hand, and then a left hand cheese, right, cheese, right, and then you play another diddle that goes to the left hand. That one's funny because it sounds like that. That one's really fun. He taught me that.
Do you have a favorite rudiment?
Oh boy, I have. I know people ask me this. When I was like, not really. I have. I mean, my joke was like, I love just tap fives, which is so basic of a rudiment. But I definitely, book reports are fun. I love egg beaters so much. My favorite thing I've started doing is like flaming an egg beater, so it's 3 on the left. Like, I like balloons, which are. I'm not going to explain that. You can figure.
Google balloons.
It's like an alternating paradiddle diddle. That one's fun. That's probably that's one of the most fun ones that I play.
So Gibby has a question that I'm curious, like maybe you can help diagnose. Like her right hand cheeses are clean, but her left hand cheeses are crushed and not connected to the. When having like offhanded problems like that, is there something you can suggest that might be?
Well, I mean, because usually, like with cheeses and such, like you want to, like I would just play without the flam, just going. Because even I'm sure in that pattern, you probably have done that before, and you've noticed like it's still not connected. Like if it sounds like that, like then I would just play it at one, like play it like this at piano. Maybe you could put a little accent, but. And then even like you can play like, well, what's the actual rhythm? It's just this. I try to make that sound the same. And then you can add accents to that. Like. And then once you're comfortable, you can do the same thing for that. Add the cheese. That's like one way is like, because to me it's like a sound thing. Like whenever I hear, I kind of sometimes I'll use like an app or like the Sibelius file, like I'll always play the music with it. Or like if you hear like your favorite group on YouTube or whatever, you like play it with them. It's like, for me, sometimes it's helpful to just hear and feel the rhythm underneath. like that kind of a thing. So when I play with it, I'm just playing really clean and even. So then like when you actually take it, you're like, okay, I know how to play a good diddle.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, because somebody actually just asked, like, where's a good place to, to find some of these rudiments and things like that. And I know when you, it feels like I'm just keep shilling the clinic.
No.
When you go to the clinic, you actually get a packet of rudiments as well, provided by Vic. Actually, it's Vic's. It's actually a really good place to start. If you, I think they might even be on their website. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I was even gonna bring that one up too. Like Vic Firth has they have like they might have there's like a poster I know.
Yeah, that's the poster.
Like the
it's great.
Poster, yeah, that's like a lot of basic rudiments. I will say, I guess finding rudiments is kind of tricky sometimes. I know like kind of the more complex ones. There's sometimes I know Vic Firth has done like YouTube breakdowns of them.
Yeah,
like
it's a good
Pete
place.
Sappinen would do some. Even like I'm sure though YouTube, like you can type in like drum rudiments and find a bunch of different stuff. Or honestly, I bet if you ask, like, I don't know, there's like, because it's so, even I'm like learning of rudiments. Like I learn new rudiments all the time. Like, what is that? Or like, but then again, like it's like something like someone said, like when I went to Coast, someone's like, yeah, dudapud. I was like, what is that? And it's just like a dudapud. I'm like, oh, that's not like that's just a sticking change. Like, so for me, it's like, you can look it up on YouTube. Is a great thing. Vic Firth has a lot of them. I know there's like videos that they've produced.
Oh, that's a good question, Sergio Boy. Did you take lessons, or what is like the most efficient way to practice and use your time?
That's a really good question. I definitely took I took lessons actually with Nicole Casino, because it was when she was like going to Blue Devils for her age out, I think for 2013, and I was being told like, yeah, like you're gonna go to the high school, like you're gonna start to maybe play like, you got to be ready to play like a tenor or a snare if you need to, because I never played snare until I got to high school, and they're like, we need a snare drummer. I'm like, let me see if I can. Like, I could not drum rest, but
they didn't put you on tom or anything either.
No,
wow.
I pretty much, because I wanted to play tenor so bad in junior high that I'm like I was coming from rack. I'm like, I need to play tenor. That's why I went to this is a boot camp and played tenor.
Yeah.
And then I did, and then because that year there was like they were all like juniors or seniors in the upper battery. So I was like, well, so it's me and Jamal, like, we need some snares, like, here we go. And I'm like, he was playing snare, but I'm like, oh god, I gotta figure it out. But because of that, I did lessons for sure. Like I did, I pretty much did it once a week for like definitely a few months, and then over the summer for my freshman year, I think I stopped doing lessons like pretty much when school started, because it's harder. And well, Chino Hills, for the school system there is like I know it's the last period is percussion, so we were just drumming all the time. So if like when that was the case, like I just kind of stopped doing lessons because I was getting taught all the time, or we were just drumming together, and you're just working it out. Like I was always with someone, so essentially I was doing lessons still, but just with like every day with like a senior dude, or like the Jeremiah Jones, right. The drum captain.
Hey,
but yeah, I even give lessons like now to the Townsend kids, or like anyone, high school kids. Like I like give a lesson. I try to do like once a week, or if not 2 times a week, and it was huge. Like that's like something people will see my mom at shows, and they'll say like, what did you do early on? Like what did he do? And she even says like, we took lessons, like just because it's really good. Like say for a junior high school or a high school, even the best high school programs, like you don't even have time to give like one-on-one information. Like for a junior high, sometimes I have to stop and you have to work on one student, and you have to like take a 5-minute thing, but that's only 5 minutes, and it's just so we can get through the pattern, like, and then we move on. Yeah. So that's why lessons are great, because it's really just an hour usually of just time dedicated to you, where you can fix it and work on it and do the next thing. So lessons are awesome.
Lessons are super Southern California, super fortunate to have just like the best instructors in the world here.
Yeah.
But I know that online lessons are becoming more popular, thankfully, and you can have access to the best instructors in the world online, which is pretty awesome as well.
I know like even like I give lessons, and I know like a lot of people like William Abramian for Pulse, like he starting his lessons, and it's really because it's really helpful for us. Like the good thing about doing lessons or getting lessons from people still in the activity is that they are like, they kind of love it. Like I love giving lessons because I get better and such. Yeah, Sebastian, I can give you lessons over the summer. Yeah, we'll work on it. But
I like this question from JC. How do you practice for the dance aspect when auditioning for drum corps at WGI? As that is becoming more prevalent every year, like you got to have some dance experience.
Yeah, that's a great question, because when I auditioned for, because I went to like a lot of polls auditions. Like in 2016, I even went for experience, which is, I'm sure, by the way, I think I've seen it and I've missed. I'll answer, like, so, the best way to do, I'll get to that question in a second, but the dance one, like, as far as practicing dance, it's kind of hard because, like, even someone said it, Jared Huntley, he's the visual caption at Bluecoats now, and he even said, like, I would just go, like, if you're trying to do an independent group, I would just go take a dance class. Like, just take one and just see, because, like, even the most basic ones will just, they'll probably just tell you, like, you need to relax your body, you need to be open to, like basically being vulnerable with you, because usually for marching we're so, like, even when you're just standing still at a second position, like, you have such good posture. Like, if I were to actually drum on a pad, like, for an audition process, I would have, like, some sort of posture just naturally.
Yeah.
But for dance, it's like you need to be able to make that vulnerable and change it. So for me, it was just, honestly, for me, like, trying to stay in shape and make sure I was stretching. Like, stretching is, like, a big thing for learning choreography. Like, whenever we do choreography, Rochelle Mapes, actually, she'll come in and do it, and, like, she'll just stretch us out for like 30 minutes or something, because you need to be able to kind of be vulnerable for your body. So, like, stretching it and just, like, working it out, but stretching it, like, if you stretched every day, like, I used to not really be able to, even sometimes still, like, I'll have, like, my hamstrings will get really tight, and I'll, like, over the summer I would stretch every day, and by the, like, I could never, like, touch my toes not over the summer, because I was like, oh, I'm always so tight. But then I would get stretched out every day, and I was like, wow, I can go past my toes. Like, I can put my whole hand on the ground. Like, which for some people it's easy, but for some people, like, it's not easy. Like, it's just not that, like, unless you stretch. So I would say, like, making sure you're actually taking care of your body is really good to prepare. Like, if you stretch for, like, if you're going to audition, like, you maybe go running real quick for, like, even, like, 10 minutes, and then, like, stretch a bunch. Is just make sure you're super loose all the time. So taking a dance class is also cool.
Dude, that's such a great idea. I know a lot of the staff. I teach Viz for drum corps and high school marching band, and it's like the dance skills are invaluable. So even you go to community college, you pay whatever it is for the class, and that will put you a step ahead already. So
yeah, which I haven't really gone to dance class yet. I'm fortunate to have friends, like, I have, like, a lot of, like, couple color guard people who I talk to.
Plus, Rochelle works for us. I mean,
Exactly.
so you have one of the
that
best
too.
dance instructors in
know.
California
That too.
working with us.
Pretty much I have gone to a dance class. The Pulse auditions are kind of a dance class because you learn this choreography.
she's
you
awesome.
won't do it, so.
Moneymaker's question has come up a couple times. Any tips on how to practice, like, if you live in a dorm or someplace where you might piss off the neighbors if you're playing too loud?
That's funny. Well, this pad has a quiet side to it. I mean, that's like a really good way. One thing that's funny. I remember this from the clinic too, from System Blue. Scott Johnson told me, like, you always see him, like, doing this in a lot of stuff. He always practices, like, you can do this with your wrist. I actually did the same thing. Like, we have an exercise at Townsend. It's based on, like, it's called rim diddle, and essentially it's like you play it like in the air first, and then you play it on your leg, you play it on the ground, you play it on the blacktop, like you play it on an A-surface, but a drum, and then you get to, like, the rim with more rebound, and then the drum. It's, like, great, actually. You can just play, like, everything here and learn to articulate either with your wrist or just your fingers or just both. Like, you can even play, it's kind of hard to do flams, like, you can try to do that kind of stuff here, but I don't know, that's a tough one. I'm usually, is that Tristan? That's funny, yeah, rim diddle. I know, rim diddle is my favorite. It's just like, all rim diddle is, I just made this exercise for, like, my middle school kids because it's great. For me, it's like basically you just do, it's focused, it's a super simple pattern. It's nothing revolutionary at all. It's just like, and then on the drum, same thing. It's like super easy just to focus on diddles. And, like, playing that pretty much is so cool because, like, when we did it, it was super dry. Like, we were playing in the grass, actually, because it was dry enough, like, the dirt, like, the grass was kind of short and it was nice and dry. So I said, oh, hey, get your sticks and let's play in the dirt. Because usually people play on blacktop to hear, which is another good tip, like, doing this versus like this. You can hear the pitch of the stick on, like, a pad is helpful on a drum, but you can really hear it, like, if I click. or do this, you can hear the pitch difference. So playing on blacktop is like really clear to the pitch difference. But playing in grass helps you just dig in. It's like the pillow thing almost. Because it's like, hey, if the dirt's like a little thick, it's like a little bit, it's like hardened, or the mud is hardened or whatever. It's like easier to play through it. You can kind of articulate, so.
This is an interesting question. So one of the things I noticed, like when I watch Blue Coats, when I watch Pulse, everyone looks so comfortable and like they're enjoying their performance. How do you get out of your shell? Like, this person's in middle school and they're saying, how do you get out of your shell? Like, what are some of the things? Can you think of something maybe that helped you take that step?
Well, that was definitely something. Like I know at Chino Hills, John would always say like, or during high school, like John would always say like, oh, like you do, like we got to do this, and it was like, he would just say like, hey, you're not doing this, and it's like, oh man, like I thought I was, or I could feel it. Right. Honestly, like that's why like practicing, like I'm not even great about it now, but well, I'm better about it now because I know, because I think I preach the process. But a really good thing to do is like you can just drum in a mirror, and like drum with like it's a good thing because like drumming in a mirror it's almost kind of awkward at first because you're like, man, like you see so many good things about your technique, you see so many bad things about your technique, you see that like. The biggest thing for me is, like, I always look up to, like, this drummer. Like, I always try to get, like, even one good guy's, like, Zack Fitzgibbon. Like, when I marched with him, like, I didn't really know him until I marched with him. And I really liked the look of his left hand. Like, I just thought it looked really good. Or, like, there's people like Mike Davis, like, for the Blue Coats. Like, he is a really good drummer. And I liked the way he drums. And, like, Manny De Leon, like, he's a phenomenal drummer. And, like, stuff like that is, like, oh, like, I want aspects of that in my technique. But you look at yourself and you're like, God, I look so different. Like even people say like, oh, I like some people have said like, I try to get my hands up like you, and I'm like, it's just weird to me because it's weird to me because it's like humbling in a sense, but I'm like, I haven't even like, I don't even know if I'm trying to get my hands to look like, and it's like that's why practicing in a mirror is really cool because like it kind of like if I put the music on, like you can even see how you naturally perform a little bit because if you're practicing music you really like, usually, I would recommend doing it when you first learn your music. Like, learn it by yourself, but then when you're doing full runs or something, go in the mirror, listen to, like, put the headphones in of, like, the ensemble piece and play with the show. Because it'll be, like, you can look down, like, when you start to get excited or something, because it's cool music. I have a lot of people just learn it. It's, like, so fun to learn it. Yeah. I love doing it now. But just even look in the mirror and see how you naturally react to, like, stuff that you think is cool. Because in the show, that's like what you will do or what you're not doing in that case.
And I would even say there's even a step further you can want it. This may or may not help you, but it's really tough. Those people that he's talking about, go introduce yourself to somebody. Like just like being able to like introduce yourself to somebody is a way to get you to get out of your shell. We do this with the high school students and it's way more challenging than you would think, but it's a huge step. If you can do that, that's just one thing that's going to make you feel more comfortable in front of people and performing and things like that. Yeah. I like this one. What was the hardest show you ever performed, and how did you overcome it?
The hardest show, physically speaking, easily Blue Coats 2018. That was physically the hardest show. That was when, oh my God, I think there was a certain point. I'm sure people know like marching. There's like 8 to 5s is like a basic step size. It's like 8 steps per 5 yards on a field. 6 to 5 is a pretty big step size. And 5.5 to 5 is huge because essentially it's like you have 5.5 steps to jump over there. And there was a certain point in the drill, it's like, man, all I see is a 6 to 5, 5 to 6 to. There's nothing. It was like there was nothing at 200, but that was the hardest one to perform.
If you ever want a good like exercise, the show looks so effortless, 2018 Blue Coats, but just follow the drum line. Watch all the places they are running around on the field. It's kind of insane. To be honest, I can't believe how much of the field you guys cover in that show.
The fun part too.
Let's see, man. There's so many good questions. We're gonna start to wrap it here just a little bit, but let's see. Do you think it's ever too late to commit to drum corps if you're a semi-advanced level 2 years? Okay, I'm gonna take this one just because it's never too late to commit to drum corps. Like there are so many awesome opportunities. There's world class, there's open class, there's groups at all different competitive levels. So I would say no, it's never too late. Like Zack keeps saying, work your butt off, do some practice on your own, and don't be afraid to go. The biggest thing is going to try out, going to audition. I know it's not cheap anymore to try out. I mean, it's like expensive to go try out for drum corps and stuff, but choose one that you like and, go try it. Just go do it.
Yeah, it's like the same thing. I kind of figured out the analogy the other day. I was talking to someone like from high school. They were like, they were thinking about doing drum corps, but they wanted to commit to college. And it was so funny because I'm like, well, for college apps, like when you apply, you have to pay a certain amount of money usually to apply.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of similar with
Same
drum
thing.
corps. It's not like exactly the same, but it's pretty similar. Where it's like
we do feed you at least, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, drum corps and organizations feed you, but doing things like when I applied for college, like I spent like a lot of money to apply to every single college, not every one, but like at least 5 or 6 really good ones. And it was like, well, you'll never like just to see and get my foot in the door, and then because they saw me and then they showed me a little bit of them and I saw what I liked. Same thing for clinics and audition camps. Like the best advice I have is like you got to get out there and go to audition camp. Like I went to for Pulse, I tried in 2016. I'm still in high school. I was like, and like I couldn't really march either way. Even I think I did pretty well. John was like, you did pretty well, but you can't march because you need to be in Chino Hills. He was like, you're in Chino Hills. I'm like, okay. That's fair. But even still, it was so good. I learned, like, that was honestly the day I learned my potential. And that's like a big thing. Like a lot of people probably know like percussion IQ and like they're kind of goal
guys.
right now. Yeah. Like I love like Matt Regua, sorry. I like sat down and talked to him about it. He was super awesome. He's such a cool guy. And he was helping me out with a lot of stuff, just talking about a lot of stuff. But the biggest thing he was talking about was like, our goal here is to kind of inspire people to kind of like really figure out where they are at and where they need to work towards and and like you compare it to like I did one, which like I did one, it feels like so long ago, but it's like so many really great drummers who have done it.
Yeah.
Even like, it's funny, like Sean Para for RCC, he did one like a long time ago, and I feel like it was before, maybe he might have been before he was in Blue Devils, but it's just funny, it's like, he did one to see where he was at, and now he's like he's center in RCC doing his thing. It's like so funny. I literally saw it the other day, and I was like, man, like, because I was like asked to do one as a comparison for people who want to build their way up, and I think he just did one by himself, which is like so cool. But then it's like, well, look where it's taken him. So,
and I can tell you from experience, we have had people who did the Pulse clinic and ended up marching Pulse. It was years later. It takes some time to get there, but we never forget these stories because they're like that actually happened. We remember seeing a photo. We kind of blew our minds, but I mean that's one of those things. Just all those little things you can do. Do you start at a disadvantage if you have a disability? Absolutely not, Ryan. You're just gonna have to learn how to compensate for it. Basically, you're deaf and wondering, dude, Ryan. Don't let that hold you back, man. So last year at Pacific Crest, we had somebody who was legally blind, which was awesome. We've had people who have multiple disabilities. They might be I don't even know what the technical term is, but there was a person who didn't have their left hand and they were still able to do the drum corps. Like don't let those kind of things hold you back. There are plenty of maybe you can't do snare drum or something like that, but there are other options in the drum corps, drum line, all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
This question, Sebastian, what are you doing, dude? If you could play like one other person in the activity right now, who would it be?
Oh man,
Sebastian has asked this question like 5 times.
He really wants to. I keep missing it, I'm sure.
Yeah, no.
Oh man, if you could play like one of I don't.
What does that even mean?
I mean, if I had to pick a style of someone I really like.
Got it.
Man, that's a good question. Honestly, definitely, I think it would be Cameron Ayers. Everyone who doesn't know, so Cameron Ayers, he's the guy, like, he stands next to me in the center line. Like, I'm next to Will and Cameron this year. Cameron has one of the, like, I think he's like the most, honestly, I think he's like one of the most underrated snare drummers in the entire activity. Like,
cool.
Because he's like really getting heavily into like the concert percussion side because he's going to school for music. Nice. And like he's like way further along than I am, so he's been learning like marimba and playing all the instruments.
That's cool.
And it's funny because he just has such a natural like flow to drumming. Like you should, if you're gonna check out Cam Drag, but if you're gonna check out someone, I love the way he drums. I also really like Sebastian. He's like nice and loose.
I think we'll take 1 or 2 more here. Do you need to use traditional grip to do this activity? At this level.
I mean, I would say it depends. I mean, if you want to play snare drum, then you most likely are gonna have to use it because most people do it. But no, like the funny thing about traditional is it's almost so funny. Like it's like, well, I'm the only instrument that does this, but yet the pit has things that are more similar to match grip in every way. Tenor drummers, bass drummers still use match grip, and even as a snare drummer, like it's kind of blows my mind. Some snare drummers don't know how to just play match grip, which to me, I know match grip was a fun mistake, but match grip is like it's the most basic form, but it's so essential, I think, to play everything is like understanding match grip. Like I did this before I did this, and even the people that learned this first in 7th grade, for me, like the first thing we did was 8ths on both hands. So I think it's definitely not. You do not have to learn how to play traditional right now.
I've worked at South Hills for a long time, and South Hills won 2 A-class championships playing match. So it's and then those members they put in the time to learn traditional once they left high school. So
even like there's a school called Vandergrift right now, and they're doing really well. Like Joe Hobbs is the guy over there. I love Joe Hobbs. He's another phenomenal instructor too. He's a great guy, but he like. See, it's Sebastian, but he's he is totally working all those kids with just match grip. It's cool. Snares, tenors, toms, everyone, but it's great. Like they're really good. They're very successful. Dartmouth too. That's
a great example.
Yeah, exactly. Go watch Dartmouth 2014. Like that snare line was insane. Like Alan Ungst, he was in that snare line doing he marched Crown in the year before. He marks like RCC, did Blue Devils, but he nailed like the snare solo in that show with match grip. It was awesome.
Okay, so we're gonna start wrapping this up. What you've been doing this activity for a long time now. Like what is getting you this is another season. What gets you excited about this season?
I mean, what gets me excited personally about this season is for one, the show I think is really cool this year. Like it definitely, the fact that it feels different, it gets me excited because. And this is the real thing for this season is I've watched a lot of other groups now and I'm seeing stuff and it's I just have such a I love the competitive aspect of this activity. Like when I know if something like scores are not what it's about, but the competitiveness of everyone trying to be the best is so much fun. Because that's something it's the awards in the end. It's that only matters when everyone goes for trying to be better than the other person. And that even goes in the ensemble. This year there's a lot of good snare drummers at Pulse, and I'm sure a lot of other ensembles, but at Pulse it's I feel really challenged to be the best one or prove why I need to be the best one. And then going to comparing my when I saw RCC, I was their book is so cool this year, it was awesome. And it was man, that's so exciting. And I saw X posted some video now that they're up, and I can't wait to see MCM. It's I'm just so excited for everyone to be at their best. And then for me and us and Pulse to try to compete with that. That's the really exciting part. So
it's so awesome how competitive this activity has gotten. It's so great.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody wants to follow you on social media or anything like that, or do you have a Twitch? I don't know. Do you stream at all?
I don't stream at all. Not yet, at least. I mean, this is my first time really doing this, and this worked out pretty well on the platform. But yeah, social media. It's I know it's at Zack the Swanky. I know that's such a funny name. Stuck with me forever. My friend Carson made it in so many years ago. So, but you can follow me on that. I don't really have a YouTube channel yet. I've been thinking about trying to post. I have a GoPro video that Sebastian actually took. He kind of there it is. Zack just playing.
Street Rocket League.
Yeah, Street Rock. I would love to. We should get some.
Stay tuned. I don't want to talk about it too much, but we might have some. Maybe we'll do some of that stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I have a GoPro video from Blue Coats. I kind of want to do a YouTube, and I have there's Vic Licks, so I may as well try to get those together.
Dude, please. It's that's the great thing about all these. We have all these avenues and channels.
Yeah.
And when are you going to speed run with me? We'll do some speed runs. Why not? Yeah. So just a couple of things. This will not be the last time we do something like this. In fact, there's a bunch of stuff I didn't even get a chance to get to with Zack. What's it like to be a member of Pulse?
Exactly,
some of that. Okay, so we're definitely going to be doing this again. If you'd on Sunday, this Sunday we're going to be doing POW from the lot at Monrovia High School. So an SCPA show. It should be totally awesome. Please keep tuned. If you're not following already, obviously give the channel a follow. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. So appreciate you all being here and hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for the good questions. I really like the cool thing about doing the Q&A for me is I just like being straight up, and it's all the questions are just so helpful to a lot of people. That's why every time I know there's marching vlogs is a new thing, and over the summer I did that. And the fun part was people asking questions I really get to because I've done so many years, and a lot of people do this That's like something even you said earlier, like ask people, like use Instagram, ask me through my handle, like what, like ask me these questions, you can ask me through there, ask other people personally, I'll try to answer you, but like there's a lot of people out there that you can ask these questions to, like on a daily basis. So I would say, like, please go for it. The worst thing they can do is not respond, and that's about it. They could just not respond. Yeah. But usually they'll respond with something and anything at this point for, like, if you're asking a question, anything, so I'm assuming helpful, so.
And yeah, I mean I wish somebody would have given me that advice back when I was doing this, because it's really invaluable. Thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it. You're helping us get this thing off the ground, so thank you. Hope you'd enjoy. If you want to follow up, you can always ask questions. We're going to post this to YouTube. Comment there, and we'll Zach can even answer them on YouTube.
Yeah,
so.
I'll try. Yeah,
He'll try to get to it. So anyway, have a good night, everyone.
Yep. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
See y'all later, and thanks for joining us.